The Galactic Empire's encrypted transmission cut out halfway through the word sniper, leaving only static and a final, blood-chilling scream echoing through the command deck. On board the Empire dreadnought Velkar, Admiral Lenarizol, four-eyed, battle-hardened, and allergic to dairy, sucked in a breath through his mandibles. He turned to his second-in-command, a three-tentacle tactician named Plox, and hissed, "Replay the last 30 seconds." Slowly, the screen flickered. 10 Zarnak berserkers, armored in neutron-forged plating, crouched near a crater on Callisto's surface. The lead berserker raised a claw and said, "Target located. Female. Human." Snip. The screen went black again. Lenarizol slammed his claw against the armrest. "That's the third squad this week. Same target. Same outcome." "Sir," Plox ventured, nervously adjusting his translator collar. "There is a consistent pattern. The female sniper. She never misses." Meanwhile, beneath the endless black sky of Callisto, Linda Harper laid flat on a cold metal platform, chewing bubblegum and humming the bass line to smells like Teen Spirit. Her rifle, a customized railgun she lovingly called Lucille, was propped up beside her, its barrel still warm from the last shot. She wore a faded denim jacket with the sleeves cut off and a patch on the back that read "Montana Girls Don't Mississippi." Her boots were scuffed, her sunglasses cracked, and her coffee thermos was running dangerously low. "Linda, you there?" crackled a voice over comms. She tapped her headset. "Still here, Mason. You sound panicky. Let me guess, another squad of intergalactic death lizards. Zarnak berserkers this time. You took out 10 of them, Linda. 10. And you finished your chili dog mid-shot. Command wants to know how you." "Tell Command to relax. It's just target practice. Honestly, I think they're sending me amateurs now." She popped her gum. Mason exhaled heavily. They weren't amateurs. They were elite. Linda squinted through her scope, scanning the desolate terrain. "Then they died elite. Boo-hoo." 10 years ago, Linda had been a bartender in Bozeman, Montana. She'd only enlisted after a bar fight with 3 Space Marines ended with her being offered a job instead of an arrest record. She could shoot the ash off a cigarette at 100 yards and once took out a drone swarm with a nail gun and a hangover. The military called her Sergeant Harper. The aliens just called her the Blue Death. In orbit above, the Velkar's War Council erupted in confusion and frustration. Footage of Linda, casually reloading while sipping a thermos labeled, "I aim to misbehave," played on loop. "She doesn't even use cover," barked General Varkta. "She is completely exposed, and she still eliminates entire squads." "She's chewing something," added a young analyst. "I believe it is called bubble yum." "Is that a weapon?" asked Plox, horrified. "No, sir. It's a primitive human morale device." The Admiral narrowed his eyes. "Whatever it is, it works. She is a menace. Should we retreat from Callisto?" Lenarizol stood, his cloak swishing dramatically behind him. "No. We send in the Blade Wraiths. Stealth units. No tracks. No sound. Invisible even to our own tech. If she defeats them, then," he paused, uncertain, "then we consider diplomatic options. Maybe even Earth-based appeasement." Down on the moon surface, Linda cleaned Lucille's barrel with a toothbrush. It wasn't regulation, but it had Snoopy on it, and she liked Snoopy. "You hear that, Lucille?" she murmured. "They're going to send the Blade Wraiths now." Lucille, naturally, did not respond. Linda smirked and rolled onto her back, staring at the stars. "You know, I used to think Montana had big skies. But this is the big leagues." She pulled out a crumpled photo of her grandma, a fierce woman with a rifle in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. "She'd love this," Linda muttered. Her comm beeped again. "Linda," Mason said, "Command says to stand down. They want to handle this diplomatically. That last strike triggered something on the Galactic forums. You're trending. Aliens are scared. You've got hashtags." Linda snorted. "Let me guess. Hashtag DeathChick? Hashtag Montana Mayhem. Worse. Hashtag She Never Misses and hashtag Sniper Queen." She rolled her eyes. Well, they're not wrong. Back on the Velkar, panic had taken root. Surveillance officers whispered rumors that Linda was part of a secret Earth cult, trained in the forgotten arts of Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption. One officer swore he saw her kill a Zarnak by ricocheting a bullet off 3 rocks and a frozen puddle. Another claimed she'd insulted a Zarnak's mother before shooting him mid-laugh. But Linda wasn't magic. She was just absurdly, impossibly good. And she had one simple rule. If something tries to kill you first, shoot faster and look good doing it. The Blade Wraiths assembled silently. Clad in adaptive cloaks, they moved like shadows, undetectable even by thermal scans. They were ghosts, myths, the stuff of nightmare legends. On Callisto, Linda finished her last sip of coffee, fished out a fresh stick of gum, and placed a small mirror on the ground beside her. She adjusted her scope and muttered, come out, wherever you are." The wind howled. Ice cracked. One by one, distant flickers of movement betrayed the wraith's positions. Only the barest hint, a shimmer, a distortion. To anyone else, invisible. To Linda, obvious. She clicked her comm, "Mason. You listening?" "Yeah." "Start the betting pool. I say I get them all in under 2 minutes." "Linda, these aren't normal soldiers. I'm not a normal woman." She took a breath, let it out slow, and fired. The first wraith's head exploded mid-step. The second one lunged, already too late. She didn't move her body. She barely even blinked. Just shifted her wrist and squeezed. One by one, the invisible assassins fell. She tagged the 7th with a ricochet off her thermos. The 8th got caught mid-jump. The 9th tried to cloak and flee. Linda waited until he was nearly out of range, then pulled the trigger. The 10th paused, visible only for a heartbeat, just long enough for Linda to whisper, "Boom," before sending him to meet whatever lizard god he believed in. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. "Damn," she muttered. "Should have skipped the coffee." "Mason, report that in," she said over comms. "Tell command we're all clear. And that if they send any more, I'm charging for overtime." Silence reigned on the Velkar's bridge. No one spoke. No one breathed. She took out the Blade Wraiths. Lenarizal rasped. "All of them." "Affirmative, Admiral," Plox croaked. 1 human. 1 rifle. 10 wraiths. All eliminated. Lenarizal leaned back in his throne-like chair and muttered something ancient and untranslatable. Then he looked up. "We may be dealing with an apex predator." "She's wearing denim," one officer whispered. There was a long pause. And then the Admiral gave a single, solemn nod. "From this moment on," he declared, "any encounter with Earth snipers is to be avoided at all costs. Especially if they're female. Especially if they chew gum." Back on Callisto, Linda stretched, tucked her rifle under one arm, and started walking toward the base. Snow crunched under her boots. She looked over her shoulder at the pile of steaming alien corpses. "Next time," she muttered, "maybe send someone interesting." As she walked, the stars shimmered overhead, and a soft ping came from her comms. Mason's voice, hesitant but amused. "Command says you're officially on Empire-wide wanted list now. They're calling you the Ghost of Callisto." One Empire officer reportedly soiled his carapace watching footage of you reload. Linda grinned. "Well," she said, "guess I'm famous now." She adjusted her sunglasses and disappeared into the swirling snow, leaving behind a smoking battlefield, 10 bodies, and a growing legend that would ripple across the galaxy. And somewhere deep in the stars, a dozen empires suddenly remembered why you don't mess with Earth. Especially not their snipers. Especially not Linda Harper. The Blade Wraiths had names once. At least, that's what the oldest files claimed, back before their transformation into shadows wrapped in armor and silence. Now, they were 10 living weapons, engineered by the Galactic Empire for one purpose: to eliminate high-threat anomalies with zero trace. They moved without sound, breathed only when necessary, and erased targets before even the most advanced sensors could detect them. And yet all 10 had died. By the hands of a single human. On board the command dreadnought Velkar, Admiral Lenarizal stared in unblinking horror at the footage now circulating across dozens of classified networks. The recordings came from an orbital drone that hadn't been destroyed fast enough. The humans had it now. They were laughing, mocking, and worse, making memes. "Is this accurate?" the Admiral asked, voice brittle. Plox, his tentacled aide, hesitated. "Unfortunately, yes, sir. She eliminated the entire squad in 2 minutes and 7 seconds. She may have been drinking coffee during the operation." There was silence in the war chamber. Not the tense silence of uncertainty, but the heavy silence of disbelief giving way to dread. "She shot one through a thermos," added another analyst. "Was the thermos weaponized?" Lenarizal asked, desperate. "No, sir. Just really reflective. And hot." The Admiral pressed a clawed hand to his eyes. "We are being undone by caffeine, denim, and sarcasm." Meanwhile, back on Callisto, Linda Harper was trying to fix her alarm clock. She sat cross-legged on her bunk, surrounded by tools, chewing the end of a pen. Her quarters were cluttered, half sniper nest, half roadside diner. A poster of Clint Eastwood stared down at her from one wall. A lava lamp pulsed next to a box of Earth Twinkies. The clock was a relic, analog, round-faced, and irritating. It had also lost 2 minutes, which was unacceptable. "Piece of junk," she muttered, fiddling with a tiny gear. The door slid open with a hiss, and Mason peeked in. He was short, anxious, and the closest thing Linda had to a friend on this ice rock. "You shot it again, didn't you?" he asked, nodding toward the dented alarm clock. Linda looked up. "I was asleep. It buzzed in my ear like a mosquito from hell." Reflexes kicked in. Mason blinked. "You shot it while still lying in bed?" "Dead center," she replied, grinning. "Didn't even open my eyes." He laughed nervously. "That's deeply disturbing. Also impressive." Linda shrugged. "Better the clock than you." There was a long pause. "I come bearing news," Mason said, voice dropping. "You've officially entered myth status. The Empire's intelligence forums are melting down. Some think you're a synthetic combat avatar. Others believe you're a demonic avatar of Earth vengeance. One theory suggests you're 3 raccoons in a jacket." Linda raised an eyebrow. "Only 3. He held out a tablet. "And then there's this." She took it. Footage flickered on the screen. Recorded logs from one of the Blade Wraiths before his untimely demise. The quality was shaky, the lens coated in blood and frost, but showed Linda in perfect clarity, standing among a graveyard of elite assassins, cleaning her rifle with the hem of her jacket, blowing a bubble of gum that popped like a gunshot. They posted that on their version of Twitter. Their word for you translates roughly to "the whisper that kills." Linda snorted. "Catchy. They've sent out a bounty." "Really? How much?" Mason grimaced. 9 million credits, plus a rare title, Human Slayer Elite. Linda leaned back, letting out a long whistle. "Damn. That's more than they offered for that rogue AI that melted 2 moons. You're more dangerous than a god-tier warbot." "I mean, sure. But do warbots have a sense of humor?" Mason hesitated. "I don't think warbots know how to quote Die Hard while sniping invisible commandos." Linda tossed the tablet aside and stood up. "So what's the play now? Are they sending another flavor of goons?" Mason hesitated, his fingers twitching nervously. "Not goons this time. Rumor says they're activating something experimental. Off books. Something called the Reaper Protocol." She cracked her knuckles. "Now that sounds spicy." "It's not spicy, it's terrifying. I've read the leak specs. A genetically enhanced half-cyborg super soldier. Basically a walking tank with stealth, thermal shielding, adaptive armor, internal cloaking, and a brain linked directly to a war AI." Linda grinned. "Can it make pancakes?" "I what?" "No. Then I'm still better." Mason pinched the bridge of his nose. "Linda, this thing, it's killed entire rebel planets. Single-handedly." She grabbed Lucille from a wall, inspecting the barrel like a mechanic checking under a car hood. "Cool. I could use a challenge. Been getting bored." Mason stared at her. "You're not scared at all, are you?" Linda gave him a look, steady, sardonic, the kind of look that made hardened veterans check their exits. "Mason, I've lived through 5 siblings, 2 failed marriages, a laser burn to the thigh, and my Uncle Ted's Thanksgiving chili. Some space cyborg with a superiority complex doesn't even rank. He opened his mouth to protest, but the emergency sirens blared before he could speak. A synthetic voice cut through the room. Warning. Incoming hostile signal detected. Origin unknown. Classification Reaper class. Linda's smile sharpened. Guess the pizza's here. The base scrambled into high alert. Troopers ran past with plasma rifles, drones buzzed overhead, and shield grids flared to life. Linda strolled calmly through the chaos, rifle slung over her shoulder, gum still popping between her teeth. Mason jogged after her. You can't go out there alone. Sure I can. You're one person. Exactly. Which is why they won't expect it to work. She stepped out onto the icy field just as the drop pod screamed down from orbit, hitting the ground hard enough to crack bedrock. Smoke billowed. The pod's doors hissed open. Out stepped Zarlok, 7 feet tall, covered in burnished black armor. A single red optic in the center of his faceplate glowed like a demon's eye. Every movement radiated controlled violence. Linda raised a hand in greeting. Hey, you the one who's been murdering moons? Zarlok's voice was a guttural rasp of static and reverb. You are the anomaly, the sniper. Linda. Harper. But yeah, I'm the one who turned your blade wraiths into interstellar mulch. You will not survive me. I've heard that before. Usually right before someone explodes. Zarlok charged. Faster than a tank that size should move, but Linda had already thrown herself sideways, sliding across the ice and coming up with Lucille raised. She fired once. Zarlok's armor absorbed it with a flash. No weak points? How rude, she muttered. He opened fire with a plasma cannon embedded in his chest. The blast melted a crater where Linda had been moments before. She was already moving, ducking behind a ridge, snapping off shots that forced him to adjust his path. She wasn't aiming to kill. Not yet. She was learning. Every dodge, every return fire, gave her a read on his timing. The way he moved his feet, the rhythm of his charging cycle, the arc of his swings. I bet you downloaded all your combat moves, huh? She called out. Try improvising. He roared and vaulted toward her. She rolled and planted a shot into his knee. It dented slightly. A reaction. Not invincible. I see you felt that. You've got weak spots. I'll find them all, she murmured. Zarlok vanished, his cloak kicking in. The field went silent. Even the wind seemed to freeze. Linda closed her eyes. Listened. The faint hum of a generator. A breath of cold air displaced. A whisper of crushed snow beneath a heavy foot. She turned and fired. A shimmer in the air staggered backward, roaring in pain. She tagged him right under the rib joint, his personal cooling vent. Lucille says hi. He decloaked, snarling. Charge again, faster, erratic now. She ducked under a swipe that would have split her in two, and fired twice more, once to the shoulder, once to the thigh. Sparks flew. Zarlok faltered. She flipped backward, rolled, and came up behind a boulder. Her heart pounded, her breath steaming in the cold. Her grin never faded. You've got tech. I've got instinct. And a grandma who taught me to shoot squirrels at full sprint. Zarlok launched a final charge. Linda waited. Waited. Now. She stepped out, aimed for the optic, and fired. The round hit dead center, cracking the lens and shorting his targeting system. Zarlok stumbled. She fired again, right through the exposed vent beneath his arm. He dropped to one knee. Linda walked toward him, rifle still aimed. You lose. Zarlok raised his head, flickering sparks cascading down his armor. How? She leaned down, popping a fresh piece of gum. Because I shoot my alarm clock from bed, sweetie. What chance did you have? And with one final shot, she ended it. The explosion lit up the icy field. Behind her, the base erupted in cheers. But Linda didn't turn. She was already walking away, the light of the blast reflecting off her sunglasses. Mason's voice came over comms, breathless. Are you okay? Did you was that? He scrapped, Linda said. Now tell command they owe me a new alarm clock. She vanished into the swirling snow, leaving behind a crater, a shattered super soldier, and a reputation that would become legend. In the grand throne chamber of the Galactic Empire's High Command, a room so polished it reflected sins long buried, Emperor Xyl the 29th stood motionless beneath a hovering halo of data feeds, footage, and memes. Yes, memes, broadcasting from every corner of the galaxy. Behind him, ancient banners hung beside sleek holopanels, and below him, his inner circle of warlords, governors, and cyber-augmented generals stirred with growing unease. On every screen, Linda Harper smiled. In one loop, she sipped coffee while casually reloading. In another, she popped a piece of gum seconds before executing a triple ricochet shot that had downed 3 stealth drones mid-flight. But the most popular clip, now viral across human and alien sectors alike, was simple. A slow-motion walk away from a burning crater, her silhouette outlined in the firelight, rifle across her back, denim jacket flapping like a flag of war. "She must be a deity," whispered Virchuk, Minister of Planetary Subjugation. "A war goddess disguised as flesh." "She's human," growled General Sarnax, "but terrifyingly efficient. She wears denim," hissed High Inquisitor Croth. "Always denim. My staff suggests it may be a protective armor woven from the souls of her enemies." "It's cotton," muttered strategist Velzan, clearly exhausted. Emperor Xyl raised a hand. The chamber silenced instantly. "We have suffered enough humiliation," he said. His voice echoed across the domed chamber like a cold decree from the stars. 10 blade wraiths destroyed. Zarlok, the Empire's Reaper, shattered like brittle glass. All at the hands of one Earth sniper. There was a grim pause before the Emperor's second set of arms raised the royal staff and struck it against the platform. "We must answer with power, not panic. We shall declare total war." A murmur rippled across the court. "A war against Earth?" asked Virchuk, tentacles twitching. Xyl eyes narrowed. "No, something more precise, more devastating." He waved a claw, and the screens adjusted to focus in on Linda's jacket, worn, faded, unmistakably American. The crowd collectively recoiled. "We declare war," the Emperor said with venomous solemnity, "on denim." Gasps erupted. High Inquisitor Croth clutched his pearls. "Literally. You can't mean." "We shall ban it, burn it, and strike fear into every human who dares wear it," Xyl declared. This indigo textile has become a symbol of rebellion and unstoppable Earth force. If we are to psychologically dismantle the sniper and her kind, we must start with the threads they wear." Back on Callisto, Linda sat on an overturned cargo crate in the hangar bay, legs crossed, rifle propped beside her, working on a crossword puzzle with a Sharpie. Mason paced nearby, visibly agitated and holding a datapad that vibrated every few seconds with increasingly panicked messages. "You're not going to believe this," he said, wide-eyed. "The Empire just outlawed denim." Linda didn't look up. "That's adorable." "No, seriously. They made a galaxy-wide broadcast. Anyone caught wearing denim on an Empire-controlled planet is labeled a sympathizer and fined 5,000 credits." "Just 5,000?" she asked, chewing gum. "Feels low." "There's more," Mason said, sitting beside her. "They've classified the Blue Death as a Class X existential anomaly. You're now in the same threat category as a sun-eater worm and the jazz band from Tau Nebula that caused a 3-month riot." "Those guys were good," Linda murmured. "Chaos, but funky." Mason turned the datapad around. It displayed a poster of Linda in her denim jacket, an Empire crosshair centered on her chest. Bold red alien text below her image translated roughly to, "Beware, denim demon of Earth." Linda cracked a smile. "Demon now? That's new." "You don't get it," Mason said. "This is bigger than just you. The Empire's having a psychological meltdown. Your existence has made them paranoid. You've become the ultimate what if. What if there's another Linda? What if Earth has thousands of you? What if all human women are sharpshooting, sarcastic chaos incarnate?" Linda finally set her crossword aside. "So what you're saying is, I'm winning." "No, I'm saying they're terrified. There's a difference." She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small patch. "I made this for Lucille." The patch showed a skull wearing sunglasses above crossed rifles. Below it, Boom Boom Club, EST, whenever I felt like it. You're making merch now? Gotta monetize the legend. Back in the Empire's propaganda division, low-level analysts were scrambling to keep up. Every attempt to diminish Linda's image backfired. They doctored footage to make her seem clumsy, missing shots, falling over, spilling coffee. But the forgeries were too obvious. Even their own soldiers laughed at them. A popular reaction video from a Zarnak recruit featured the young warrior pausing the footage and deadpanning. Linda would never spill coffee. This is fake. The memes only got worse. One popular interstellar comic depicted Linda walking into the Emperor's throne room, calmly requesting he hold her thermos while she dismantled his army. Another showed her riding a flaming space shark wearing her denim jacket like a cape. Morale within the Empire's forces plummeted. General Sarnax attempted to raise spirits with mandatory pep speeches. She is one human. One. We are billions. But she wears denim, sir, one trooper whispered. No one is that good. Sarnax shouted. She shot Zarlok in the optic. Twice, someone mumbled. The general fell silent. Desperate for control, the Empire commissioned a new strike team, the Chromoguard. 10 elite soldiers genetically altered to resist human charm, sarcasm, and cultural contagion. Their armor shimmered in hues calculated to counteract Earth fashion psychology. Their primary objective: locate Linda Harper, destroy Lucille, and banish the concept of casual jackets. Linda found out about them via a live stream. They're really stretching now, she said, watching the Chromoguard promo at over breakfast. That one guy looks like a disco ball. Mason brought over a steaming cup of coffee. They're serious, Linda. These guys aren't just muscle. They're designed to not laugh at Earth humor. Oh no, she gasped dramatically. My greatest weapon. Foil. Also, Mason added, they've started jamming Earth music. That got her attention. Wait, what? They blocked access to pre-2000s Earth cultural archives across Empire space. Apparently, they think Earth snipers are trained via a combination of Nirvana, Clint Eastwood, and Saturday morning cartoons. Linda stood, grabbing Lucille. Oh, it's personal now. Later that day, a new Empire announcement declared Earth women an unstable threat to galactic peace. The statement was quickly followed by a leaked internal memo detailing 25 failed assassination attempts on Linda, every one ending with subject eliminated mid-quip. The Empire's bureaucracy began eating itself alive. Reports came in of soldiers refusing to deploy unless given anti-sniper insurance. Alien civilians were seen sewing makeshift denim jackets in solidarity. On one outer rim planet, a protest chant rang through the streets. Linda never misses. Give peace and pockets a chance. In response, Emperor Xyl called a secret emergency summit with the Galactic Council. We have miscalculated, he admitted, to the shock of his peers. We believed Earth to be primitive. Instead, we discovered Linda Harper. And through her, we glimpsed something unholy. A force no algorithm can counter. No armor can stop. The Arcturon diplomat raised a scaly brow. Are you speaking of some secret Earth weapon? The Emperor nodded solemnly. Free will. And sarcasm. The chamber went quiet. A new strategy was drafted. Back on Callisto, Mason ran into the control room, panting. Linda, he said breathlessly, you're not going to believe this. Linda glanced up from her rifle maintenance. That's the third time you said that today. No, seriously. The Empire just offered peace negotiations. She blinked. Come again. They want a parley. On neutral ground. They've requested one delegate and named you specifically. Linda stared at him for a long moment. They want me to negotiate, she said slowly. Mason nodded. Apparently, their exact words were, send the denim goddess or suffer more consequences. Linda holstered Lucille, rolled her shoulders, and cracked her neck. Well, she said, guess I better wash the jacket. As she left the room, Mason glanced at the terminal screen, still flickering with intercepted Empire chatter. Every line of data, every transmission, every surveillance log carried a single unifying thread. Fear. Not of Earth's armies. Not of weapons. Of one woman in worn-out denim, chewing gum, quoting old movies, and carrying a rifle named Lucille. And the galaxy hadn't seen anything yet. The first thing Zarlok noticed about Earth's most dangerous sniper wasn't the rifle. It was her smile. He had crushed 29 worlds, incinerated continents, and torn gods from their temples. His armor was layered with Starforge plating, his nervous system hardwired to a war AI. He could predict enemy movements before they made them. He had never lost. But the woman standing at the edge of the ruined canyon, hands in pockets, rifle slung casually over her shoulder, denim flapping like a challenge in the Martian wind, smiled at him like she knew the punchline to a joke he hadn't heard yet. So, she called out, voice calm, bored even. "You're the big scary one they scraped off the villain shelf." Zarlok's combat protocols kicked in instantly, analyzing her stance, vitals, tone, every micro-expression. No fear, no bluff, just confidence, and something else. Amusement. "I am Zarlok the Eradicator," he said, voice booming through his amplifier. "Last of the Voidborn, Slayer of Titans. I have destroyed armies with a breath. You are a speck beneath my boot." She shrugged. "And yet here we are. You shouting your resume, me wondering if I have time to grab a snack before this gets interesting." He raised his arm, plasma cannon locking on. She moved. The first shot vaporized the rock where she'd been standing, but Linda was already rolling, popping up with Lucille aimed straight at his optic. He ducked, a split second from catastrophic damage, but she fired anyway. Gray's shot, deliberate. Zarlok recalculated. This wasn't luck. She had let him dodge. Linda grinned as she dropped into a defensive crouch, using terrain as cover with fluid grace. Every movement felt natural, instinctive, refined by years of muscle memory and chaos. She spoke through her comm, even though he could hear her perfectly. "Zarlok, huh? Can I call you Z?" "No." "Cool, I'll do it anyway." He unleashed a barrage of micromissiles, but she'd already slid behind a crag of iron-rich stone. Shrapnel peppered the air. "This is cute," she continued. "They keep sending big boys, thinking I'll be impressed. But you're all the same. Loud. Over-designed. Can't take a joke." Zarlok charged, armor amplifiers humming, every servo calibrated for high-velocity strikes. His war AI screamed for engagement. He leapt, blade drawn, an arc of death descending. Linda sidestepped and shot his elbow joint mid-swing. Metal groaned. His arm locked. "You know," she said conversationally, ducking under his follow-up strike, "you bots really need to work on flexibility. Maybe a little yoga." She fired twice, once into his knee, once at his hip. Non-lethal. Testing. Zarlok stumbled, recalibrated, rerouted his damaged limbs. Every analysis showed one conclusion. She should not be winning. She was just human. But she wasn't just anything. He activated his cloaking module. Instantly, he vanished from visual and thermal range. Linda didn't even blink. She slid her shades down her nose and muttered, "Oh no." The scary man disappeared. Then she closed her eyes. The wind picked up across the ridge. Dust and echoes danced between the shattered remains of alien vehicles and spent shell casings. Zarlok moved silently, circling her, analyzing every angle, predicting her reaction time. He struck from behind with blade drawn. She ducked an inch too early. The blade missed her by centimeters. She twisted, shot upward without looking, and clipped his shoulder in a perfectly timed blind shot. Sparks flew. "You've got a hum," she said, still not opening her eyes. "Real faint. Right before you pounce. I used to hunt coyotes. Same problem." He roared, decloaking, frustrated. She opened her eyes. "That's better. Let's finish this face-to-face." Zarlok engaged full combat override. His armor thickened, limbs elongated, and his war AI entered terminal protocol. No hesitation. No analysis. Just destruction. He slammed into her position, blowing through cover, scattering debris. Linda rolled with the momentum, landing hard, gritting her teeth. Her ribs screamed in protest, but she gripped Lucille tighter. "I like that rock," she muttered. Zarlok loomed over her. "You are flesh. I am machine. You will die." She coughed, blood on her lip. "Yeah? You ever been to Montana winter?" Z? I've seen drunk moose with more grit than you. He raised his blade. She moved faster. From her boot, she drew a compact backup pistol laser-etched with the words for emergencies and cyborg jerks. She fired twice into his damaged elbow, severing wires and cracking plating. The blade fell from his grip. She launched herself upward, grabbing the hilt midair, and plunged it into the exposed core near his shoulder. His systems shorted in a flash of light. Zarlok bellowed, his body jerking, sparks raining from his chest. She didn't stop. She rolled behind him, kicked off a stone, and landed on his back. With a scream, she jammed Lucille's bayonet through the optic and fired point-blank. The blast shook the canyon. Zarlok staggered forward, molten circuitry leaking from his mouth grill. He turned, once trying to process what had just happened. "You," he rasped. "You are not human." Linda stepped forward, bloodied, bruised, but standing tall. "I'm very human," she said. "That's the part that should scare you." He collapsed, the impact echoing like a hammer dropped on steel. Linda sat down beside his smoldering remains, pulling a cigar from her vest. She lit it with a spark from his ruined chest panel. "Well, Lucille," she murmured, "he lasted longer than the last guy. Gotta give him that." She took a drag, sighed, then winced as pain from her ribs caught up with her. Her calm crackled. "Linda." Mason's voice trembled with disbelief. "Is it over? Did you?" "He's toast," she replied. "Big, metal, overconfident toast. You're alive." "Wouldn't be making quips if I wasn't." There was a long pause. Then Mason laughed. It wasn't relief. It wasn't joy. It was a kind of stunned, exhausted sound you make when the impossible happens twice in 1 week. "You did it," he said. "They'll call this day the end of the Eradicator program." Linda leaned back, puffed on the cigar, and looked up at the twin moons of the Martian sky. "They'll call it whatever they want. But they better remember it started with one woman, one rifle, and a very bad mood." As she stood and dusted herself off, the wind carried away the ash and smoke, and with it, the last traces of Zarlok, the Eradicator. Across the galaxy, in rooms full of frightened warlords and scrambling AI advisors, one name would ring louder than any battle hymn. Linda Harper. She wasn't the strongest. She wasn't the fastest. But she was something worse for her enemies, unshakable, relentless, and maddeningly human. And as far as she was concerned, the war wasn't over yet.